Oh, we have to do the intro. Give me 1 second.
Oh, I gotta slide in. I gotta slide in.
Oh yeah. Oh, don't know. Okay.
Favorite class and dedication combo that everyone is sleeping on.
So
Okay.
Jake, I don't know. You might be too boomer to know this, but sleeping on means that they haven't realized the full potential of the combination. Does that make sense?
I will say I don't know if a lot of people like this combo, but it's kind of like a cheat combo, which is the rogue has a subclass in the last adventure book, not the last adventure book, in the last player's guide, that allows you to take an archetype at level 1, and I take the witch, so it is a rogue with a witch archetype, and you get a familiar, and your familiar can take a single action, which can be the aid action. And I've taken a rat for mine, and the rat turns around and aids my rogue whenever he pickpockets. And I think that that's a really fun combo, and it's a cheat because you get it at level 1, which is strong as hell. And then at level 2, you're able to get a level 4 feat or level 3 feat. I can't. You basically you get a feat early, and allows you to use spells and sneak attack with them, which is hella strong. Nom Nom Fabo says fighter and life oracle fight me. That's a great combo. Honestly, Oracle as a whole is just a great combo. Like Oracle,
anything that gives Oracle sustain is really good because like you are squished, but you have all these cool things that you can do when you get in people's faces. I think that is really cool. I honestly think that like a lot of the big things that people sleep on are characters that don't want to use heavy armor, like a caster or a monk, for example. I'm going to use monk because you know that this is the context that I'm thinking about it in. So like monk plus heavy armor user, monk champion I think is the one that comes to mind first, because like monk and then like redemption champion, what's it called? Mm-hmm. The redeemer probably is what it's called, because I just said redemption. That is really good, and I think a lot of people don't do it because when they think champion they think heavy armor, but you don't have to put it on. Just because you're proficient with any kind of armor does not mean you must wear it. And I think people get this mindset that if you have armor on, or I'm sorry, if you have armor proficiency, any kind of armor proficiency, you have to use the highest one in order to be like getting the optimal benefit out of the choices that you've made. But you don't. You can just take the monk side of things, do base monk, dedication champion, and try to get to that the reaction that they have, because monk is really starved for reactions. Going the champion, which literally has the most. No, I think fighter has more, but some of the best reactions I think in the game. 100% worth. Definitely do. What's all right. The O word? What did I say? That's the O word.
Opportunity.
I'm trying to think of. Did I say opportunity?
I don't know.
Why is it the O word? Orangutan. It's probably said orangutan. That's probably what I said.
Optimal. Why are fighters OP? They're not. They're not OP. They're not OP. They're not OP. They have to go up in people's faces. I've seen more fighters go down than anything else. The only reason they feel OP is because you have people that are willing to heal them. By themselves, they are not that great. They're good, and I feel that low level, they feel really good with casters, but I don't think they're overpowered. They're not.
I think
they're not. All of you can stop it.
They're high burst when they hit things, right? But then like think of the amount that I go down, right? Imagine if I wasn't so into taking damage, and if Remy had to tank all that damage, right? That's kind of like rough. I think the name of the game is keep your burst characters up, and you can definitely build a burst damage fighter, right? Something that just hits and does tons of damage. Keep them standing. So some of the mini game for your party is, how do I best keep the characters that deal damage doing the damage? Is it by healing them? Do I need to have a healer, or is it by peeling for them? Do I need to like throw people across the room away from the fighter until the fighter's ready to deal with them? Or do I just like AoE like push people away with magic, or there's so many ways to approach it, right? They're not OP in the sense that they can fight more things than any other character can fight. They just do the work faster. Does that make sense? They can't 1v5 a CR equal to their level. That's not the kind of OP that they are. They just do a lot of damage quickly. Without support, they will die just like any other class will.
They make other martial feel bad getting legendary weapon proficiency, but that's so far into the game, and the fact that all of the other martial classes are getting a lot of other things other than legendary, like at that point, I don't know. I don't think they're as strong as that a lot of people make it out to be.
They are not better at fists than monks because they need to take the penalty from. Sorry, so
the -2, right?
Yeah. They don't take the -2 penalty for making lethal attacks with an unarmed, with a non-lethal weapon, right?
Yep.
So it evens out, right? A monk can make a lethal attack with an unarmed strike. If a fighter makes a lethal attack with an unarmed strike, the +2 they get from having legendary versus the monk having master cancels out because they take the -2 for making a lethal attack. That having been said, they're still not better with fists because monk can flurry of blows. Monk can do so much stuff that puts them on par with a fighter. If a monk could make as many attacks as the monk has the ability to make, whilst at the same time having legendary proficiency, they would be too strong because they would hit too many times per round. They need more of a chance to fail than a fighter because they get to make more attacks than a fighter for most of the game.
All right. Next one. What do you see? What do you want to see in the upcoming Magic book? Necromancy. Cool.
I honestly, okay, this is what I want to see, not what I expect to see, right? Because okay. I'm allowed to just pipe dream it.
Yeah.
And nobody's going to judge me. All right, cool.
I want to see it. It says want.
Yeah. I want to see a new tradition.
Oh, 100%. Okay.
I want to see, because like, remember back when we were doing like the very first Pathfinder 2nd edition videos, we were talking about magic, and we had Arcane, Divine, Primal, and we were used to those 3. Primal was kind of new. It was always kind of like a branch of Arcane, but we had those kinds of spells. Mm-hmm. And then there was like Occult, which was like kind of more out of left field than the rest of them. I want to see what they do if they come up with a 5th one. You know?
Scion.
Like psionic magic. That's what I was thinking too. Mm-hmm. Or maybe elementalist sort of stuff. I that will definitely be a little bit overlappy with the rest of the spells, but I think it would be cool to have their own like niche like elemental, because like most of the elemental stuff in the other sections of the book are all evocation stuff, right?
Sure.
But having like elemental transmutation and elemental divination, but putting that spin on those other schools would be very interesting to me.
I would love to see additional, specifically cantrips that are more elemental based, because you mentioned elemental and it made me think about that. Is like there's a fire, there's a lightning, like, and then you look at like water and you look at the other ones and it's just like bludgeoning damage. And I'd really love to see more like effects other than just like it does bludgeoning damage. Congratulations. So yeah, I
wet damage, dude. Wet damage, 100%.
You're soaked, and it causes you to be fatigued. That'd be cool. I don't know. I don't know.
The fact that there's not a moist condition right now is really disappointing.
So I played a witch. I called it my elemental witch, which is the closest to shaman that I could get. Witch. But going through it, I realized that they're like, because I was trying to choose elemental specific spells, and I realized like there aren't a ton. And so I kind of want more elemental spells in the primal school, because I feel a lot of the times those the elemental spells go into evocation, because like fire does fire damage, and it's explosions, and evocation is that thing. So I would love to see elemental. I'd love to see a shaman archetype even. I'm hoping we're going to get a bunch of new archetypes. I'm hoping we get a bunch of new feats. Okay, side thing. I want to talk about this. Uh, I know that I'm in the wrong, and I know that my decision is not, or my want is not what most people want. But I'll be honest, I like feat trees. I love feat trees. I think feat trees are really cool. Like, and I'm not talking about like dedication feat trees. I'm talking about like skill feat trees. I like the idea of skill feat trees, and I would love to see some feats that stack. Like, I don't know, being able to scare people to death that stack with other feats within that school. Look, I know I'm wrong. I know people don't like it, but you know what? That's what I want. That's what I want. So, what would you want to see Pathfinder improve upon in the future? More general feats.
Yeah,
That's
a lot more general feats. I think general feats. I think general feats are a little bit lacking. I think it would be nice to have them do like marginal increase to, or make marginal increases to various playstyles. Like there should be a set of general feats that help people that are doing like a utility build, and a set of general feats that help people that are doing a DPS, a melee DPS build, or a range DPS build, or a magic DPS build, or a magic control build, or whatever. Any number of things. It doesn't matter what tradition of magic you're using. It doesn't matter what school of magic you're using. It just matters that you're using magic and you're trying to control. Like, and they should like be kind of. I think this is the thing that can separate them from class feats. They should be maybe more trade-offy than they are power increasey. Like you can choose to sacrifice one spell slot higher in order to do this cool thing. That sounds very meta magic-y, but I think meta magic in general feats sort of makes sense, you know?
Mm-hmm. Well, and there are some meta magic feats. There just aren't a ton of them, and they're all attached to class feats, which
classes. Yeah,
it's kind of rough.
yeah. I think there's a way to make it work for every. Maybe I'm wrong about meta magic, but I think there's a way to make it work for every permutation of DPS, tank, healer, utility, and then like caster, ranged martial, ranged whatever. You know what I mean? Like every permutation of those things. I think it's possible to make general feats that kind of improve them, add a little bit of different flavor, give them a little bit more versatility. Right now, I feel like the general feats are, and I know for a fact this is going to sound stupid when I say it out loud, but too general. There's just like, would you like more health? Would you like a horse? Would you like some other stuff?
My issue with them is that we get enough general feats that the current selection of general feats, when you look at your players and go, what did you choose for your general feats? A table of 4, I guarantee you there's feat overlap. Just because it's like, I don't know, I don't know, I had 3 and I only liked 1, so I just took these other ones. You know what I mean? Like it just like I feel most people like end up taking feats that allow them to take feats out of other pools. So I feel that the general feats are a little lacking. I wish there would be more. I want more skill feats, always. And that's what we even said, that our only negative in the last book was that there's not enough feats. And Jason Bowman called me out on it too. He goes, apparently don't like the feats. I was like, I want more, homie. It's not that I didn't like.
Yeah, it's not that we don't like the feats. We love the versatility of the feats. We want more of it. That's just you're just like, don't put words in our mouth, Jason. This is from a long time ago as well. I don't know why we're bringing it up now.
Yeah. All right. Raw stuff that you can't stand / always homebrew.
Travel and crafting.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So travel is a tool that GMs have to take resources away from their players before they ask their players to do something that requires a lot of resources. So it's basically a way to make your players feel like they were up against the odds and overcame like a long and arduous line of quests. You know what I mean? To get to where they are now, and they were beaten and haggard and the underdog in this last fight because they had to use all their spell slots getting to the fight, and then they won anyways. Yeah. And that in concept, when you say it out loud, when you write it on paper, sounds great, but like in reality, when you ask your players to expend resources for something that isn't their primary objective, they they try to optimize it, and they try to like expend as little resources as possible. They don't want to spend the potion. They don't want to spend their spell slots. And then when they get to a situation where they want to, where you ask them to do the big fight, they try to like rest. You know what I mean? Like, oh, we need a rest before we go into the fight. And so it doesn't really work that way. Most of the time, it doesn't. If you have a group that's like that you're role playing with and is doing the role play part of it, I think a little bit more on the realistic side, where like time matters, then I think travel matters. If the players need to do something in X amount of time, then the amount of time it takes them to travel from point A to point B and what happens along the way is very important. But if you're not doing that, then travel gets cumbersome because they're just going to rest at the end of it, right? And then, do you want to talk about crafting? Because I think you have stronger opinions about crafting than I do.
I mean, I have two different ones other than those. I just feel that they.
Oh, sure. I'll finish crafting. I'll do it real quick. Crafting takes too long. Crafting takes too long, both in game and out of game. Crafting is takes way too long for you to accomplish. You can't do it. You kind of can't do it piecemeal. And then if you do it piecemeal, it's difficult to like track in your head. You have to like write stuff down to keep track of it over multiple sessions. And then it takes too long at the table. If you're trying to decide, and like you have to have like a side crafting conversation to not bore the rest of the group with the discussion about how the crafting is going. You know what I mean?
And all it does, and at the end of the day, all it does, if you just at the bare minimum, just do the like try to get it done as fast as you can, it still just allows you to pay the money it costs to buy the item.
Yeah, like, and then you have to spend more time to get a discount.
Yep.
When like in reality, just like go and instead of invest, unless you're crafting potions. Crafting potions is great for people that do alchemy. But if you're not doing alchemy, instead of investing in crafting, just invest in like social features that let you either steal things more effectively without being noticed and without compromising your position in the world, or haggle for prices. And it's the same effect, but it's more interesting roleplay.
Yep.
To haggle for prices.
The two things that I have that I don't like, and I homebrew most of the time, is attack of opportunities and flanking. Attack of opportunity in Pathfinder 2nd edition, you can make an attack of opportunity if someone even continues to move within your space, which I feel is kind of garbage. Like, think of a duel. Think of two people that are fighting each other, right? When you think about it like movie or cinematic, and like one person is walking around the other person, that other person is rotating their body to follow them, that is what, like, that's not like you're not attacking there. You're, you know what I mean? Like, I hate that. I hate that so much. Like, and to be honest with you, it should be the person that is being moved around that the other person gets an attack of opportunity on. Because like, if you're staring at me like this and I walk around you and you continue staring that way, I'm gonna hit you on the side, right? Versus like the idea of like them following you. And so I don't like the idea of attack of opportunities happen even when you move around that person's space, because they could theoretically be moving with them. Because when we're using tokens in like Roll20, where either it just faces in a single direction, you're not reusing directionality, or you're using miniatures, or you're using theater of the mind, and you can't follow through with that and understand that. Second, flanking. If there are two people around you, even if I have two dudes right in front of me going at me, they're going to have a better opportunity to hit me than if one of them was there. And so the fact that the person has to be behind me, exactly behind me in a was it 6, 7, 8 grid, they have to be exactly behind me for me to have a disadvantage, is garbage to me. And I hate both of those. To me, it should be, we should go back. Oh God, I'm going to say we should go back into the olden times where it wasn't necessarily placement, but the quantity. If you're a medium-sized creature and you have 2 medium-sized creatures around you, guess what? You're flanked. If you're a large-sized creature and you have 2 medium creatures, you're not flanked. But if you have 3, you know, like I like that. So those are my two things that I homebrewed / don't like.
I think the reason they did that was because flat-footed, which is the condition that being flanked gives you, is really strong in this, right? So like having 2 people from the front being able to give somebody the flat-footed condition is like mechanically too advantageous, perhaps. This is by the way, this is not like something that I know. This is something that I think or feel. That having been said, they could have given it a different condition, right? They could have given the name something else instead of flat-footed. They could have made a distinct flanked condition that applies when you are flanked and maybe gives similar bonuses, but not the exact same bonuses as flat-footed. So like maybe it still does give you a -2 circumstance penalty to your AC, but since it's not called flat-footed, it doesn't apply in all of the other situations where flat-footed is useful, like sneak attack, for like just one example. And they didn't do that, and so that makes me think there's something else behind it that I don't understand. So yeah, I just whatever that other like hidden thing is, if that exists, I don't get it, and I wish I did get it, and I do like the way that you implement flanked, because it really does make more sense. If I'm in like literally in somebody's face, even if I'm just punching them a whole bunch, the guy with the great sword next to me is going to be able to hit that person like better than
you're having to move your attention in two different directions. You know what I mean?
Like, and this person's doing strike, 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 and this person's doing strike.
Yeah.
Those are two different things. You have to figure out how to do that.
Dayton says, but those people aren't doing it in reach of each other. And I will tell you that you being in a 5-foot square and a person being in a 5-foot square in front of you is also technically not within reach of each other. So the thing is, like, my reach is not 5 feet. Neither is with a sword. The thing is that that 5-foot square, and the reason why it's a 5-foot square is because that's the space in which you are moving around within to do your things. Like when someone swings at you and you miss, right, and it misses your AC, it's not necessarily that it hit your armor. It could be the fact that you moved out of the way. That's why your dexterity gets put into place. You're moving around within a 5-foot space. It is not I am here. Attack. It is not that. You are literally moving around. You are defending. You are going.
People that fight in general never stay still. That's like one of the first things you learn is always be moving. You can't be, even in games like League of Legends. This is a bad analogy because the chances that everybody here plays League of Legends is so small. But in League of Legends, you're not supposed to stand still. You're supposed to attack and then move while your attack cooldown goes to 0. And then when you are able to attack again, you attack, which stops your character. And then the second you are able to move again, you move again so that nobody can hit you for free. They have to understand which direction you're going to move in and like aim in that place instead. That's the idea behind the combat movement and how the 5-foot like square plays into it, right? Experienced fighters don't stand still ever, even if they're in like giant ass armor. They're moving, maybe slowly, but they're moving.
So in chat it says Jake answered his own question as to why two people don't grant advantage in the space and motion. The thing is that all of those actions are technically supposed to be happening at the same time. So those two people are supposed to be attacking me at the same time, and I'm defending at the same time, and I'm attacking at the same time. So the answer is, yeah, I'm not going to be able to do all of those things against two different people at the same time.
Yeah. Imagine trying to like trip somebody and then also having a great sword being swung from the left, like that. It's not like, yeah, you're right. You can just dodge backwards and avoid both of those things theoretically. But the idea is that, like, do you have the mental faculty to be able to understand that simply dodging backwards will avoid both of these attacks? Like that's the it's not about if you dodge backwards, you dodge into someone else. It's about fighting two people is more mentally taxing than not fighting two people. And so you're more prone to making mistakes.
And on top of that, the thing is that it's not that you're just moving back to the end of your 5-foot square, is that you're also making an attack at that same time, which means you're moving forward as well and making a swing or making an attempt. There is a lot there. And I understand that that is one of the reasons why attack of opportunities aren't as common as they were in previous editions of like, everyone gets attack of opportunity. And it's like, this is a person that is specifically trained to be in close combat, and so in which they can do that. But that doesn't mean that they're not at some level a disadvantage. And it could easily, if it was such a hindrance or difficulty, I feel that those people that are melee or in those situations, like a fighter, like a monk, should have the ability to increase the threshold of your attack of opportunity. So it requires a third person to get you to be able to have that against you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there are other,
or maybe it's a function of your wisdom or of your intelligence. You know what I mean? Like it's intelligence being like how well you understand fighting from like a theoretical, like practiced perspective, or like wisdom being how observant you are, and that sort of increases your the threshold for being flat-footed or being flanked or whatever you want to call it. Also, Nom Nom Fabo in chat said something interesting, which is it would be a nice idea that you are automatically flat-footed when you get attacked X times before next turn. So that's also like a mental faculties thing. Like if somebody's near you but they're facing the opposite direction and attacking someone else, you're not really worried about them. You can focus on one person in that situation. But if there's 3 people facing you, even if it's from the front on a hex, right? Then you're stressed. And if they're all attacking you, that's a lot of movement potentially, right? So even just the concept of being exhausted from doing that is sort of a difficult thing to justify not giving you some sort of penalty.
Yeah, there's a lot there. So we got like 4 more questions, and we got maybe 10-ish minutes before we hit 2 hours. So let's see if we can try to make that happen.
Let's do it.
Do you think the system dictates the game style? No.
Loosely.
Yeah.
Like I think there's a lot of different things that you can do with systems that are set in different like time periods. Like there's some things you can't do with systems like Pathfinder that are really set in fantasy that you probably could do with systems that are set in like a futuristic kind of sci-fi setting. And as I'm saying that out loud, I'm disagreeing with it, because like why would you not just replace cameras with sentries? You know what I mean? Like the amount of, and like if you want to hack all the cameras, it can be a spell. So you know what? I take it back. Not even a little bit. I think you can do every sort of encounter with any system.
Yeah,
and be that general. Yeah, I'm going to be that general.
Yeah, and I will also say that your table's going to determine the play style, right? Is this going to be a heavily combative group, or is this going to be a heavy RP group? Is this going to be a group that cares more about shopping, or is this going to be a group that wants to kill and conquer the world? You know, there's a lot there, and that your group is going to be what determines your group, including your GM, is going to determine like the overall important part, which is what connections you make emotional to the story that you're telling as a group, versus systematic, I get 3 actions and I can attack, versus I roll 2d6s and I succeed or I don't, right? I think the overall how you want to play is going to be determined based off of your group.
There is also something else to be said about like systems like the zombie one that's really unforgiving that you ran.
Outbreak.
Yeah, Outbreak Undead, where death is a lot more like of a problem, I guess, like a lot more permanent, a lot more like in your face. And I think maybe that can kind of change the way that games play out, right? If death, it basically how likely and how permanent is death, and that changes how your players behave. If they can be rezzed, they will go ham and be brave. If one attack landing on them will kill them permanently, they will be less brave. So that's kind of the line, in my opinion, is how does death work?
What's the most underrated spell in Pathfinder 2nd edition right now?
That's a great question. The most underrated spell.
Overrated is Electric Arc.
Ooh.
Underrated, maybe Telekinetic Projectile, because I think a lot of people don't use it the right way. So I have
underrated.
Why do I think it's underrated? Because the thing is that it can do all 3 different types of damage: piercing, slashing, and bludgeoning. But people just basically go like, I want to move a rock and hit them. Okay, it's bludgeoning damage. But the thing is that my rogue that I have that uses telekinetic projectile carries a hammer, a dagger, and an arrow with him at all times, and he uses that as his telekinetic projectile. So by having the knowledge of what you're fighting against allows you to better advance your creature cell. So if this creature is weak to bludgeoning damage, guess what? I'm thoring it up and using that hammer as my projectile and able to have that advantage. Mind you, it doesn't get any sort of the bonuses that like if you used silver or whatever. Mind you, Paizo said, well, it's however your table wants to do it. It flat out, in my eyes, it reads, it does not gain any other properties, which means if it's silver, that's a property. But I still think it's an extremely strong and very, very good spell, especially as a cantrip and as a low-level spell. So I really like it. Yeah.
I'm going to go with most illusion magic, I think, is something that is underrated, and I think it kind of has to do with GMs not giving it the sort of power that it deserves. But like, for example, Drop Dead is really strong because not only are you like turning one of your allies invisible, right? But the idea behind the spell is that you convince your opponent that they've killed a player, right? That they've defeated one of their opponents. So that adds a level of like morale to the enemy combatants, right? Oh, we're getting them, we're winning, we've gotten one of them, we're almost gonna win. Look, we've beaten one of the strongest frontline people. Let's just get their backline and we'll be done. That isn't how it usually plays out. I feel like GMs do it a lot more like, okay, this character is now dead, and then the NPCs behave the exact same way, and then the character comes out of stealth and does, because they've taken a hostile action, they cast a spell or do a sneak attack or whatever, and then the NPCs react by going, neat, I'm going to continue fighting. Are you now the highest threat target? Great, I will fight you. I think having once the enemy takes down an opponent, one of the player characters, they should be emboldened. They should be super aggressive. And then once they see that they didn't actually do that, they should retreat. They're screwed, right? Like, yeah. They maybe not retreat as a rule, but like they should be way passive at that point. And I feel like GMs don't play with that sort of like opponent motivation sort of thing, like the morale idea. And so that's why I think that's kind of underrated.
So we've got some disdain in my metal and silver argument. So I'm gonna show an example of this. So property, the definition, not excluding the ownership property definition, an attribute, quality, or characteristic of something. So right now I have this cup here. This cup is made of glass, which I would say is an attribute. It's an attribute, quality, or characteristic of something. I have this cup. They're both cups, but they're not the same because their properties are different. This one's made of plastic, which is its attribute. So, silver is a property.
I buy it.
All right.
I also do think a silver weapon, like as a cantrip at level 1 is pretty strong.
Well, yeah, especially it's like, okay, I'm going to go against a werewolf, which is like a significantly higher challenge rating. And then I'm going to stand back and use a silver weapon and use a silvered weapon. Well, and actually in this specific situation, it wasn't even a silver weapon. It was silver coins, which everyone has. So it's like, it's definitely I don't feel like it's following the spirit of the rule, and like it's skirting on the wording of the rule. So it's just like, all right. Next question. Does intimidating prowess affect scared to death?
This is the opposite. Where Jake, I love this because the question, what is the most? Oh wait, yeah. What is the most underrated spell in Pathfinder 2 right now? Led to telekinetic projectile, which is something that Jake is vehemently defending a position that I think is correct. And then we switch to, does intimidating prowess affect scared to death? Where Jake's like, it should. I don't care what the rules say.
It should. It should.
I love it.
Look. We're all allowed to be wrong, and everyone's clearly wrong about these things that they disagree with me on.
To be fair, for the group that thinks that scared to death does not affect intimidating prowess, I agree with you.
Well, okay, so I agree that by the rule, the written rule is that they don't, right? written down, they do not affect each other. Like, I agree completely with that. Do I feel like they should? 100%. I feel that those two things should stack on top of each other. And and that's why, like, everyone's like, oh, well, the server's technically yours. We're talking about calendar. You can make that rule. I'm like, no, because that, like, it's the same standpoint I have on the other, which is the rule and the spirit don't match. And in this, the rule and the spirit don't match. In my eyes, like, the way it's written, we know for a fact that it's wrong, right? And the reason why we know that for a fact that it's wrong is that it doesn't have the auditory trait.
The traits don't match, yeah.
It doesn't have an auditory trait, but it says if they can't hear you or don't understand your language, you take a minus to that. So, like, though, right, that's really confusing, because it's like, well, hold on, it doesn't have the auditory trait. So we know that there's something wrong with it. Like, there is something, either the auditory trait needs to be added to it or that penalty needs to be removed. I also feel that it is a significantly better, and this kind of goes back to what I was talking about with feat trees, is that these feel like, here is level 1 of this ability and here's level 2 of this ability, and they just improve upon the overall ability, versus here's an ability that's not as good as the other ability, and you can take both of them, and all it does is allows you to make 2 different attempts, but neither of them are, like, as good as if they were combined. So, answers, it should. Does it? No. All right. Do you think balancing still works if you don't have one healer and one tank? I'm gonna let you start with this one because I have strong opinions.
Yeah. I think that yes, it does still work if you don't have one healer and one tank, but it does not. The difficulty isn't the same, right? If you have, like, the Holy Trinity, the tank, healer, DPS, you have the ability to cover your mistakes better, right? That's what the healer is there for, to cover mistakes. You're out of position, you took too much damage, or I need to be able to get you away from the characters that are attacking you, so I'm going to be the tank and I'm going to push them away, or take taunt them and take their damage somehow. That's kind of the idea behind that. And then the damage dealers are doing the damage and racing the enemy team to see who kills everybody first. If you don't have the ability to cover your mistakes, if you don't have a healer, right, you can't recover from a failed save where you took crit damage from a spell, then you can't take crit damage from a spell, right? You can't let your health get that low by crit failing those saves. And it's very difficult to guarantee that you don't crit fail saves, because, hey, guess what? You can just do that by rolling a number on a dice. There's like a 5% chance that you just do that, and there's nothing you can do about it. I mean, you can have an astronomically higher saving throw than the challenge than the DC, but then you're just not fighting at your level, right? So that we'll ignore that use case. Assuming all the DCs are reasonable, you can't guarantee that you're going to never crit fail. So you have to kind of like make fewer mistakes, make 0 mistakes, so that you have room for the dice to make mistakes for you without TPKing your party, right? And that is really difficult. You have to do everything kind of perfectly. You always have to think of something that the GM hasn't thought of in the encounter. You have to use, like, oh, wouldn't this be difficult terrain? The GM's like, yeah, I guess it would be difficult terrain. Or, would I be able to cut the thing of the chandelier and squish all the yeah, I guess you would be able to do that. Kind of thinking outside the box in that sense. And then also, you probably have to min-max your character to be able to do those things. You have to be able to handle a ranged encounter, handle a melee encounter, handle an underwater encounter, handle all these different things have to be built into the way your character works, and that seems difficult. Do I think it's possible? Absolutely. Do I think it would be fun? Probably. If everybody agreed that we were going to do a strictly mechanical, like, dungeon delve, where the whole point of the session was to challenge the players to see if they could survive without a healer or a tank, or a healer and a tank. We're all martial characters. We had no magic, and we're all monks. Everybody's an unarmored monk. Let's see if we can survive. That'd be pretty fun if we all agreed to it. But would it be fun as a role-playing experience? I don't really think it would.
I will say that it's all determined on your GM, 100%. Because if your group, if I build my scenarios based off of my group and I don't do the other way around. So if my group does not have a healer or does not have a tank or does not have both, well, guess what? They're a group of assassins that are working together that would only take on missions or goals that work for assassins. You know what I mean? And so I would put those things in front of them versus going, I'm going to put them in a situation where they have to kill a creature where its only weakness is healing spells, right? Because unless I felt that the group could handle that extra level of difficulty, right? If I feel like, and that's why I feel that GMing is not necessarily, and I hate it when people feel this, that it's GM versus players. It should always be the GM is coming up with fun, interesting stories and difficulties to place in front of the players for them to come up with interesting ways to come up with how to solve them. It should never be, I'm trying to kill you. It should be, what are the best situations for this group of people? You don't have a healer? Well, you know what I'm going to do? I'm probably not going to put them in situations where healer is absolutely necessary. Oh, you don't have a tank? Well, guess what? Seems like we're going to have to be doing missions that don't require a big beefy person to take damage up front. It's my job as a GM to pick out and tell a story that fits their group and how they want to play, and it isn't for me to tell them what they have to play. So,
well, and here's my counterpoint to that. Not to say that I disagree with you, but I think adversarial gameplay works, but you have to agree that it is an adversarial game, and you have to agree to the rules, right? Because the GM can do anything. So if it's adversarial in nature, the GM can just be like, and then a meteor comes. Because, I mean, I think a lot of people have been in that situation, right? Where the GM abuses their power so that the encounter goes the way they expected it to. And you feel sort of... you feel like you have no autonomy in the world. Like, oh, I stopped this from happening, but then the MacGuffin saved the evil person. Even though I counterspelled their teleport, they still managed to do it, and I can find absolutely no evidence to show why that happened, and it just feels like sort of cheap, Like, my actions don't affect this world. Why am I in it? Why do I need to do anything? Why don't I just sit back and let other people do the things? Because it's clearly not going to make a difference.
I've played in those games. Actually, I've literally played in a series of games where at the end of almost every very, very difficult and horrible situation that we got thrown into, a magical NPC always managed to solve it within 3 seconds. And that was always just terrible, and I hated playing like that.
It works the other way too, right? Your GM can abuse their power to lift the players up and make it feel like they are above all reproach. They cannot fail, because, like, for example, if you make a perception check and you roll really badly, everyone rolls really badly, and then the GM's, okay, I'll just give it to you. You see this thing, really difficult to see thing in the corner, and it looks exactly like a rock, but you don't, but you somehow notice it, and you're just like, then why not just say that I saw it? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
make it glow or something and say that I saw it.
It's what Dayton said. It can also feel bad to bend things in favor of the players if they do dumb stuff. And that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that if you have a group of people, a group of players, you want to put goals in which that they can accomplish in front of them. Doing stupid things or them rolling poorly does not mean that you're going to give it to them. What you're doing is you're not trying to set them up for failure. You're setting them up for success and allowing them to succeed.
But also allowing them to fail if they fail, and that could be their fault, and it could not be their fault. It could be the chance of the dice. But if they do fail, and this is the hard part about being a GM, it's still fun. They have to fail in a fun way.
And then
now they have to escape.
Yep. One other thing, Jason says, but if it's not GM versus player, then what's the point of having an optimal response of shape changing into a T-Rex to solve every encounter?
And with that, we're going to end the stream.
Yes, that is the end of our questions. I hope you all had a great time and enjoyed this. I think what I'm going to do is I think I'm going to cut these up into like individual episodes per question. So they'll be like short, like little 5-10 minute episodes, and we'll just drop them during the break as like for people that couldn't watch it versus dropping a 2-hour video. So yeah, I hope you all enjoyed this. I had a lot of fun with this. Crew, did you like this?
I despise speaking with you. Literally every time we do it.
Good.
No, I like this. I like casual being able to read chat streaming that we never are able to do because we're role playing and we don't like to kind of distract ourselves from the situation that we're in. But also like being able to read chat and respond and like go back and forth is something really nice. I wouldn't mind doing this more regularly. Is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, absolutely. If you all keep coming up with questions or topics that you want us to talk about other than defeating trolls, I'm cool with doing these more often as well.
Gamegorgon.
Cool. All right. I think that's it for us. So thank you all very much. I hope you have a wonderful holiday break. I hope you had a wonderful Hanukkah. I hope you have a wonderful Christmas, Kwanzaa, celebrating nothing but spending time with family. Question. Okay, we'll answer this last question. Why ranch? Answer me. And the answer is, have a good night, everyone.